Thank you so much, Tina, and thank everyone for being here. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in the heyday of the Trailblazers and the peak of grunge music in the Pacific Northwest. At the age of 6, a family friend suggested to my parents that I apply to a private school on the other side of town where I might be challenged in a new way. I sat for the tests, charmed my way through the interviews, and got in. The kids at my new school had different upbringings from me and my former classmates on my side of the river. They had big houses in the hills. Some had women who lived with them to cook and clean. Others summered in France and spent Christmases in Aspen. It was a foreign land. But it didn't scare me. It made me intently curious to understand these new realities and eager to share my own. It never occurred to me that foreignness was something to look at with suspicion. In my world, the difference it highlighted was a source of pride. Being born of Kenyan parents, I was always excited to share with a curious classmate why my dad had an accent or why my name had a silent N. I would take as much time as needed to make sure my teachers pronounced my name correctly and refused any attempts made to shortcut that effort with a nickname. A naturally observant child, I honed a gift to form relationships because of my differences, not in spite of them. Not having any natural in-group at school to fall into, I looked for the essences of our truths that would build connections. During Passover, my new girlfriends would trade the matzah their moms had packed for them for the chapati my dad had tucked into my lunchbox, giggling as we taught each other why we all ate such strange bread. During recess, another friend and I would laugh and play with each other's hair, she in awe of how my hair would retain any gravity-defying shape you could form it into, and me observing how her hair would swing just like the tails of our favorite My Little Pony dolls. My friends and I were of all different backgrounds. We were all just girls who were proud of our roots and enjoyed learning about our friends, who loved to pretend in the mirror that we were drumming for Prince just like Sheila E., or dress up as Rainbow Bright to vanquish the demons of darkness. In the end, my differences became aspects of my identity that allowed me to connect to my peers. Through our lunches, we learned how important food was to our different cultures. Through playdates, we learned how our families grounded us in a sense of belonging. Together, we burrowed down into something deeper than the surface and found in that space a shared humanity, rooted in a desire to belong, to be seen and to be loved for who we are. Despite my comfort in showing up fully and proudly in my cultural identity, there were aspects of my personality that I was taught to prioritize over others. I learned to subsume parts of the spectrum of my truth in order to adopt the life of a serious person. A serious person may have creative gifts and find pleasure in cultivating them, but they are never to be centered. They can only exist at the margins as hobbies, for they are not the kinds of things that serious people take seriously. I played the piano, I danced and sang in choirs throughout my childhood and into college, but I never considered the possibility of pursuing a career in something creative. Such a choice was well beyond the bounds of my imagination, an option for those with options, but not a choice I dared entertain for my own self. So I did what many daughters of immigrants do who want to become serious people. I went to law school. I hope that this path would allow me to forge a career that would be of service to others, while satisfying my now internalized requirement to remain within the strictures of what was a safe and valued ambition to pursue. There, I diligently learned to repress my deeply wired instinct to lead with the heart, and instead amplified my capacity for linear and analytical thought to affirm my identity as someone to take seriously. Empathy, that capacity to feel with another human being, proved to be a roadblock at times in my professional life as a serious person. I learned that while my passion for justice led me to fight hard for my clients who were facing deportation to lands they had fled due to unspeakable abuses, it was my empathy that allowed me to connect more deeply with the lives and stories of my clients. It's that part of me that found it troubling to call it a win when a client was granted asylum, but would be left to their own devices when it came to actually building a life here. But after the case was over, my work as their attorney was done. Why, a colleague once asked me, am I still hung up on a case when it's over and we won? I swallowed hard, attempting to stifle the swell of indignation in my throat that I feared would erupt in a polemic against the notion that our clients were case numbers rather than whole people. People who could have been my immigrant family, with hopes and dreams that we closed the file on, considering ourselves successful. Hide your heart, Njoki, I whispered to myself. A serious person doesn't feel this way. In some environments, we are taught that optimism is unrealistic, that intuition is ungrounded and illogical, that heart-centered problem solving should be suppressed in favor of logical and linear execution of discrete tasks. Fortunately, life has begun to reveal to me a beautiful truth, that we mustn't choose between our hearts and our minds, but it's from the union of our hearts and our minds that our greatest beauty is born. Neither part needs to be hidden, but each is a gift to be nurtured to serve our highest purpose. To discover this path, I had to stop placing value in environments that encouraged me to show up as a fragmented self. I had to create the surroundings that valued me wholly. I had to let go of what was familiar yet limiting to embrace a sky where my wings might appear. I had to remove conditionality from my self-love and approval and redefine success to include an overwhelming sense of freedom, joy, and purpose in all that I do. I had to choose to believe that the whisper in my heart that told me my full self is purposeful and meaningful and necessary was telling me the truth. I had to give myself permission to decide that I too am someone with options. I found that when we're willing to let go, to celebrate the entire spectrum of our humanness as a unique and divine whole, we give ourselves the freedom to explore and expand into everything we are meant to be. It is through such surrender that a new kind of faith is born. A faith that no matter the uncertainty ahead, we can be confident we are going somewhere extraordinary. Today, I thank my younger self for holding a cherished lesson in trust until I was ready to receive it again. Be you, for you are pure magic. Don't dull your edges or contort into boxes, but let the beauty of who you are with all of its contours shine brightly. This is the birthright of each of us, to claim our own magic and to live our lives as our full selves, knowing that we belong everywhere our hearts guide us. Thank you.